All
All
right.
right, you guys are live.
Hey, everybody. I am Beth from Fit2B. And joining me today is Kelly from the Tummy team. Say hi, Kelly.
Hi.
And she is a licensed physical therapist and core rehabilitation specialist. And she's the one that I did rehab with. And look, I've got my Tummy team shirt, total groupie here. I am the founder of Fit2B.com, which is an online fitness provider. And I'm sitting here at my squatting workstation. See? Which is why the angle looks a little bit weird with the camera. But I love this little setup. Look, I'm gonna move my little camera really quick and just kind of show you what it looks like. So I've got this little coffee table and I've got my little bolster and my Dutch Bros. And yeah, so this is where I do some of my work, not all. And it's, I think, great for hip mobility and all those other things, but I don't live here. I do lots of other stuff. What we're gonna be talking about today, and I've got a little guy home with a cold, so you might hear some coughing and some other sound effects as 8-year-old boys are prone to. So explosions, I won't go into detail. It may be totally random. But we are going to be talking about what the role of core rehab in fitness, and specifically as that relates to diastasis and pelvic floor issues. We have a lot of women who are making a return to fitness, but they haven't covered those bases yet. Fit2B provides, as most of you know who are watching, a type of fitness that is safe for people who have core trauma of various types, whether that's hernia, surgeries in their past to their abdomen, severe diastases or not so severe, incontinence, prolapse, and that started because I was working really closely with Kelly. And I'm going to actually let her tell all of you how her and I connected and how we started working together.
All righty. This is my version of the story because I was watching something the other day that was your version of the story. And it's funny how we have a little bit of different perspective on it all.
Oh, dear.
No, not in a bad way. It's just, we see it totally differently. And I think time also kind of slants it because now we have this long-standing relationship and we look at it differently, right?
Yeah.
But I was working with a client. This was back when I first started the Tummy team and I was going to people's houses. And I was still working my other physical therapy job. And I was just, figuring out if this was something that people wanted to do. And so I went to this lady's house and she was severely debilitated. Very large woman, large belly, incredible amount of pain, hurting, falling apart, had little ones to take care of. And, I wasn't scared by that. And we just started because I believe that no matter what size you are, everybody has the same muscles. And so the muscles need to be strengthened no matter what size you are and no matter how many layers of other stuff might be in between you and what you feel that where that muscle is. And that was absolutely true with this lady. And we started out with the most basic thing I could teach her. And it was incredibly effective and her life was transformed. And I didn't know at the time, but she was also a client or connected somehow to Beth. And she reached out to Bethany and told her about her experience with the Tummy team. And then Beth emailed me. I think maybe it started with an email or started with a phone call. I can't remember. And just said that she knew this person and she does this online fitness thing and wanted to pick my brain about some things. And so I said, sure. So we talked on the phone. I remember laying on my tummy on my bed, talking to you for like an hour and a half the first time on the phone. I mean, maybe it wasn't that long. It seemed that long, but you kept asking questions and I kept answering. And then that led to another question and then another question. And and it was just an easy conversation because you were asking all the questions that people ask, all the questions I asked when I was trying to figure out why is my stomach not getting better? Why am I falling apart? Why do crunches absolutely make me look fat and pregnant and weak? And why, right? And so you were asking all the questions I had asked just a short while before. And so then you're like, well, I want to get more information. And I was like, okay. And so you were in Portland and I said, well, let's meet at IKEA. Did we bring our kids and put them in the childcare? I think we might have.
Well,
Maybe not.
We almost did, but then my husband at the last minute could watch them, and we actually met really late. It was like 8:30.
It was late. Oh, we closed the place down.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. And so we met there because I felt like it was in between and we could talk, and maybe I needed to get something at IKEA. I don't know. I can't remember why we met there. But anyway, we talked a little bit, and it went almost immediately into pelvic floor. And I said something to you about how, I think you had said something about this inner thigh exercise to increase the pelvic floor strength. And I said, well, that's all great and fine if people aren't already using their inner thighs as an excuse to think they have pelvic floor strength or something like that. And you looked at me like, what? What?
I looked at you like my brain was imploding, because it probably was.
And I was like, what did I just say? And I just remember, like, there were so many of these little connections. So then I said, this was also back when I would do group classes. So I'd see people in their homes, but periodically I would see a group of people at different places, wellness centers and other PT clinics and stuff. This was before, when I was just starting out and I was trying to figure out how I could get this information best to people. And so then you came to a group class. I'm sorry, I'm rambling for a long time here, but
no, you're fine.
Then you came to this group class, and I knew in my mind you were taking it thinking, I'm going to get information for my clients. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm here. And because that's how all the professionals that originally come to see us are. They're like, okay, yeah, I kind of know this stuff. I just need to gather this for other people. Kind of reminds me at church when sometimes you hear the pastor and you think, oh, I need to tell so-and-so that, when really you probably actually need to tell yourself whatever the pastor just said, right?
Well, no, that never happens to me.
Never. You can't relate to that at all, right? But I have come to learn that every professional that comes to do any kind of training with us needs to go through the program for themselves, even if they don't have necessarily a traditionally, or an obviously weak core. They need to get what we're doing at a personal level to be able to really implement it with their clients. And so that first session, we kind of go through a bunch of stuff. And at the end, I check everybody to see if they have a diastasis.
Yeah. So I go walking back there like, okay, I just want to know what this is like. I want to learn how to check tummies. This is cool. I don't think I have one because I had been taught how to check for one in college, but
yeah, you were in a little bit of shock and denial. With that check. And I am incredibly sensitive to where people are at. I know that this is vulnerable, and I know that some people want to know the number because they're like, tell me there's a reason something's wrong with me. And some people would be traumatized if I tell them their tummy isn't as good as they thought it was. Right. You were the traumatized person. And and I respected that. And I also know that people take some time to process. Awareness is overwhelming. We say this a lot. Awareness is overwhelming. And when we become aware of something, almost always we're aware of how hard it is, or how weak we are, or how difficult what we've really been living with. And that kind of hits you like a ton of bricks sometimes. And I think that happened, but to your credit, you came back and you stuck with it, and you personally experienced what it felt like. And it gave you an ability to not just reconnect to yourself, but to connect with so many women out there that maybe an average fitness instructor doesn't quite get what they're going through, or a personal trainer for that matter doesn't quite understand. So I think your personal journey is the most impactful and powerful thing that you can offer your clients and your members, because yes, you have phenomenal knowledge in fitness, but if you didn't have that personal journey, you would have never had the spark that motivated you to create something new and different and reach the people that weren't being reached. And because of that, we now have this incredible partner, because I am a rehab person. I do fit a little bit of fitness just because I'm an athlete by nature, but I don't have time to do that. I don't have time, and I cannot exercise and breathe and talk like you do. And anybody that's been on and watched the core cardio, oh, it's horrible. I'm just hyperventilating. Kelly
has contributed some guest teaching to Fit2B. She is well loved. She has a lack of confidence in this area.
Yeah, I can't breathe and talk. When breathe hard and talk, apparently, when I'm
Yeah.
exercising. So anyway, so we now, we do the rehab side of things, and then we send our clients to Fit2B for fitness. And sometimes, often, Beth is great about educating her people and letting them know when they're not ready for fitness. And then she gently or not so gently nudges them over to us, and we welcome them with open arms.
Yes.
Them up and send them back.
Mm-hmm. And I, a lot of people, some of my colleagues really are not sure, like, what can an online rehab do? Well, if this was just some online person who didn't have any clinical experience doing rehab, I don't think it would work as well. But Kelly in her clinic does so much with people hands-on, and so can really explain things. And plus she offers these Skype consults that are amazing and help people connect to their own body. And, just recently, we're going to open this up to questions. You guys can post questions anytime. And Chris is in the background. He's streaming them to me. So whatever questions you have about core rehab and pelvic floor, this is your chance to ask them, carte blanche. But going back to this woman who just recently posted on our Facebook fan page, she said, "Hey, I'm not a fan of Fit2B so far. I just can't keep up." And at first I was like, "Oh, hey, that's not funny. Did you hear my son laugh?" And I, reading into what she said, though, she went on to talk about how she just, the breathing and the pelvic floor action that we do at a really basic level for people who may or may not have done rehab before. They come to us, they find fitness, they may or may not know they have any core problems. So as they start working out with us, my goal is to educate them to know, to have that awareness of, okay, am I safe to proceed, or is my body not responding? And so, just gently talked to her and got her more involved with our forum where she would find support and realize that she's not alone, and what she's experiencing is really common. That when you have a disconnect and a dysfunction happening deep in your midsection, things don't fire right. And like Kelly just said, the initial overwhelming aspect of, oh my goodness, some things are not working and I can't control this. How come I can't even control my own breath, is infuriating and saddening and hilarious sometimes. I mean, I've had people write and say, "Oh, I couldn't stop laughing," or "I can't stop crying." It really, there's so much emotion that we hold here. And it's huge. And so, yeah, like, we get people either that are just gaining that awareness and deciding if, okay, the problem with their core is the fitness piece, and by changing their fitness piece, they can indeed regain strength and function, or people that are maybe having come from rehab and now they've laid the foundation and they're ready to move on safely because they've got those building blocks, and then we have almost 200 routines they can explore. Or we get the people that start us and realize, oh, I need more help. Yeah. And so that's when, and all over Fit2B, I cannot be accused of not promoting physical therapy because it is all over our site. And it's just so hugely important. I'm one of those people that firmly believes that every woman should go see a pelvic floor and core physical therapist whenever it dawns on you. Like that moment when you start to think, something's a little bit wonky down there or in here. Well, that's when you should call somebody.
It actually should be,
to find somebody good.
Well, it actually should be standard of care,
Yes.
And I've talked about this. It's like this underlying passion that I have of redefining the standard of care. If you're in the medical field, there are certain things that are considered standard of care, like a certain diagnosis. This is how you evaluate for it. This is how you treat it. This is the path that it goes down, and that standard is agreed upon by the medical profession as a whole. Right? How we treat prenatal and postpartum women, specifically from a physical standpoint of the muscles of their core and their pelvic floor, is completely neglected, and it's really, really underappreciated. And so this shouldn't be like, if I have a problem, and if the problem gets bad enough that it's really impacting my life, then I guess I'll go and maybe my insurance will cover it. That's not how it should be. I really believe, and one of our passions is doing professional training and we're really trying to grow that. especially now that we have several years under our belts and feel very confident in what we see and what we're able to accomplish. But really getting it so that every pregnant woman is checked for a diastasis. Every pregnant woman is encouraged to go and get some core rehabilitation and core preparation for the pregnancy, the labor, and initial birth recovery, because right after they have the baby, they're busy and can't get in. But if they have a plan beforehand, they're going to do so much better. And then postpartum care. That is just standard of care that they always go and they get a certain amount of core. And it needs to be specialized physical therapy. It needs to be people that do this type of stuff, because if you are going to a clinic that is not used to working with prenatal and postpartum women, there are some unique situations that you need to address with those particular population. And I personally believe that, I'm not saying that people that aren't mothers can't do this work, but there is some unique knowledge that until you've lived what it is, it's hard to know how to realistically tell somebody what they will do and what they won't do, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm just saying, like, sometimes, and this is on physical therapy, and even for myself, if I go to a physical therapist for my shoulder, if that physical therapist can't show me how to build this into my crazy busy life, even though I know how beneficial it would be, I won't be consistent. And without being consistent, I won't be successful. And so understanding the demands of a new mom, the demands of a mom with multiple kids at home, with toddlers, with potty trainers, with homeschool kids, with all these different demands emotionally and lifestyle, to really give people a smart and realistic way to do this. And so it should be a standard of care. We need more people doing this work, and we're working on that.
Yeah. Well, and you just came out with a program called The Floor of Your Core, and you've been letting me review it, and it's awesome. One thing I love about all of your online programs is, and also when people meet with you in the clinic, is you give stuff to people in these little bite-sized pieces. So if they have an hour and a half to sit down and watch all the videos together, great. If they've got 5 or 10 minutes here and there, then they can watch all the videos throughout the week. And as they're watching the videos, you're giving them these little things to chew on that directly apply to their life. And you're giving them these little motions that they can instantly integrate into their life. And we all have certain constants in our life for the most part, like how we pick things up and how we bend over to do different chores and things, and how we make love, and how, there's certain things that we all are doing at some point in our day or week, and you tackle all of them in your programs. And because of that functional integration piece, I think that's why people see so much success. And why I had so much success, and I went through your program really in the early days, but
before we knew what we were doing.
well, you knew what you were doing, but you hadn't put it into this spelled out. It wasn't an online program yet, and I was like, you got to get this online, because my people are online and they need you, and there's nothing like this online. There's some people that are like, hey, pay $80 to watch 3 15-minute videos.
Yeah.
And then what? That's not, your program is spread out over 8 weeks. They have a limited amount of time. It is rehab, because
it's rehab. They
got to make the appointments, because if you don't do those things in that amount of time, you're not going to be as successful. That's just how it works. Now, oh man, I just had a thought and lost it. Oh, it was, our little preacher's wife at our church, and she is just a tiny little thing. And she just had their 5th baby. And I see a question that came in from Melissa, so I'm going to read that. But she just had the 5th baby. And so I reached out and said, hey, can I bring you a meal? And she knows what I do. We have a relationship. So I felt comfortable saying, how's your belly doing? Do you want to borrow my splints? Because I have a couple splints kicking around. How's your bum doing? And, just starting a conversation. I know that wouldn't work if you don't, you can't just walk up to a woman you don't know at a restaurant and be like, hey, nice newborn. How's your pelvic floor? I've got a site for you. I actually really do wish I could do that. I have to internally stop myself, because I am so passionate. I don't care who this person is. They need to know about this, because chances are they don't. And that's what freaks me out, is how little I knew with a degree in exercise and sports science, with a lot of like foundational work for pre-physical therapy or athletic training, I could have gone either way. And then with, multiple certifications I'd accumulated over the years. And then I meet you, and you finally provide these missing pieces to all this stuff that hadn't really connected with me as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so my brain is imploding, and I couldn't adapt it into how I taught fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't take notes fast enough. I couldn't change how I was training people fast enough because it just made such solid sense and it worked in my body. But I can't believe how many lies I had bought. I've taken down old workouts where I was like, hey, and it's okay if you pee your pants a little bit when you do this. And because that's what I was taught. And as soon as I went through your rehab, I was like, we got to take that down.
Yeah, well, it's what we all kind of believed a little bit. I mean, we all drank the Kool-Aid, and I think if you don't know better, you do the best you can until you know better, and then you need to do better. And you need to be willing to know that we are constantly learning, we are constantly improving, we are constantly adding more stuff. And I think the number one thing that both me and Jillian talk about, Jillian's my other PT that works with us, and she also helped film the Floor of the Core with me. Is, the biggest obstacle that we find and that we're addressing with women and men, but we see mostly women, is disconnect.
Yeah.
They're so disconnected from their body, from their symptoms, from their life. They do the workout to check it off, to get in so many steps a day, to do this, and they're just powering through their life, ignoring symptoms because they either don't know how to fix it, figure everybody else they know has those symptoms, don't feel like they're valuable enough to address those things, don't want to be at physical therapy 3 days a week and get minimal success. There's a lot of excuses, a lot of reasons why we don't go and get help. But I think that the first thing is really getting people to slow down. And that's what's so cool about the beginning of our program, is all about sitting and breathing, right? Sitting and breathing. And you would not believe how hard that is for people to give themselves permission to sit and slow down so they can breathe.
Yeah, that's what that video was about, that one woman commented on, was our first video. And it drives all the athlete-brained people nuts, hate it, right? Because they're like, this is nothing. This is not even a workout. Well, honey, if you can't just sit and breathe and coordinate the expansion and contraction with your inhale and exhale and the elevation and depression of your pelvic floor with the same thing, and you feel like throwing your chair across the room just doing that, truth, you're not quite ready for the fitness. Because like, I'm going to be filming a weightlifting routine tomorrow. Every breath is cued. Every breath is cued because it's so important.
I can tell you, I've had clients that have driven, that maybe some of them have started the online program because they're like, oh, it's an hour and a half drive, and I just want to do it from home, which works for a lot of people. And I had this one lady that she's like, I just had to drive to see you because I figured I'm not doing something right. And she was breathing in opposition, and the breathing is the foundation of it all. You need to expand and then engage on the exhale. And it's hard. It took us 45 minutes. 45 minutes for her to get the breath, which usually I don't spend that much time because people will like get a little mad. And then she told me the second time, she goes, I left here and I was so mad that I had to drive an hour and a half to learn how to breathe. She goes, I was so irritated. And she goes, and then on the way home, my hour and a half, I figured it out. And I got home and I was like, yep, that was a good 3-hour drive to learn how to breathe. That was worth it. I needed to drive an hour and a half to get this. And from there, she took off and did beautifully.
Yeah. But how many people will actually, because the online program is amazing, but when like we all, though, at some point may need a little hands-on help. And it's the same way with Fit2B. It's like, look, I wish I could reach through the screen and adjust your posture. I can't, so I give you the best cues possible, and I encourage you to look.
That's
You
when you
may
get a
need to
Skype.
meet with. Yeah, exactly. Now we have a question.
Okay,
This
go
is a
ahead.
great question.
All right.
From Melissa. Melissa, thanks for waiting. We jabber.
We do.
How would I start my 8-year-old on some tummy rehab? She has always had a protruding tummy and a pigeon-toed walk. Melissa, I'm curious if she's a W-sitter too. I bet she might be. She has seen a pediatric orthopedic doctor who confirmed it's a weakness in her hips. It's affecting her since it seems to be uncomfortable to run, and she's losing confidence in her body. You know, that is where it starts. Thank you. Oh, and I did purchase a splint for her from the tummy team. So she's already got that piece, but like, what can she be doing with her kid? We have this cute little bitty bellies routine on Fit2B that kind of just teaches kids just some basic, like you blow out your air and pull your belly button in gently. Like but that's basic. That's, but sometimes kids need something even more basic, and they need to meet with somebody hands-on. So what would you say to Melissa?
Well, there's two different things that I hear from that comment. The first, the pigeon toe. The pigeon toe is a hard habit to break, but it is possible. And instead of trying it does come from a little bit of weakness in the hip and then habit. But it sounds like she's at 8, she's getting a little bit more aware. If you can even just have her start focusing on how she's standing, not even how she's walking, and trying to keep her feet pointed forward in line with her hips when she's just standing, waiting in line at school, waiting for the bus, standing different places. Just start with the standing, so she can start to feel that, because that is going to play a role, because when they turn their toes in, that affects their knees, then it affects their pelvis, and there's a little bit of a pelvic tilt that's going to happen there that makes it very difficult for her to engage her core. So start with just the standing of the alignment of the feet. But then the other thing is, look at how she's sitting in different places and try to teach her what her sit bones are. Because so many of these kids are so used to sitting on their tailbone and slumped. And if she can, this will take her foot little issue out of it, because she's on her sit bones. And instead of having her focusing on, the breathing part is great, but really, I think more than anything, teaching them how to elongate, then that takes their focus off of being self-conscious of their tummy and the risk of, oh, I need to suck in my tummy all the time, which sometimes starts preteen. They're self-conscious of their belly, so they're sucking it in, and sucking it in is the opposite of what we want. We want them to elongate, and that elongating will come when she's in a good pelvic alignment. Okay. And then the other main thing that I see that is kind of reinforcing some core problems in, I would say, every child we've seen so far is potty posture. Is she constipated? Does she hold her breath and bear down? Really thinking, talking to her and putting a squatty potty or something along those lines in the bathroom, and teaching her how to put her hand on her tummy, draw in while she's exhaling, and then trying to have a bowel movement then. Because a lot of times these kids that we see that are having chronic core problems, it's almost all starting with potty problems. So they've been constipated, they have maybe some kind of digestive issue, they've trained themselves to hold their breath, bear down. I have yet to see one client that's prepubescent that hasn't had a constipation issue or a pooping problem.
Wow.
Yeah.
Keep posting your questions. We're going to keep this going for about another 15 or 20 minutes because I have to go pick up my kid from school. real mom, real CEO here. But that's excellent. And I love how you tied all that in, Kelly, to the potty thing, because that is huge. And I even still catch myself doing the and then the bearing down. And I catch my kids doing it, and I tell them, just blow it out through your toes. And my son's like, that's gross, Mom. But then he does, and it works, so you find the cue that works. And this goes back to how it's so valuable to Skype or meet in person. And I do consults for people who need fitness help, and Kelly can do consults. you'd be amazed how she can have somebody, and because I've talked to my clients, you've done this, where she will say, okay, I want you to put your hands on your belly, or I want you to put your hands on your ribs, or I want you to put your hands on your bum and do this so that you can connect and feel. And I know Jillian, the pelvic floor physical therapist that specializes in pelvic floor in your clinic, does the same thing. And a lot of that is also included in the program. And it's like, the program so deficient that you'd have to drive just to learn how to breathe? Well, no. But if they recognize that that is a huge problem, and they know they need that kinesthetic, hands-on, one-on-one, driving an hour and a half to learn how to breathe properly is worth it, because
when it changes everything.
Our breath is we forget how crucial our breath is. But I just finished a 200-hour yoga teacher training, and let me tell you, learned so much about the breath, not the mojo woo woo poo poo part of it, but just how our body uses the breath to get rid of toxins. Our body uses the breath to expand and contract and create a squish in our organs that keeps our toxins massaged and healthy. But we don't facilitate that when we're slumped and we're breathing shallow, when our core is dysfunctional, when we have a diastasis, so it's not even holding our organs in the right place to get that squish and massage. It's such a circle. It's such a circle.
You know, when we first started, like when I first started and you had mentioned, oh, you need to do something online, you know, I started out doing random Skypes with people. Like I would have a client that saw me and said, oh, you know, my sister's in Alaska. She needs to work with you. And so I Skyped in Alaska, and I would Skype here and I would Skype there. And at first I was like, you know, I'm so ingrained as a physical therapist. I was like, how can I actually just, you know, help them? But the reality is, you know, that they actually do really great when I can see them, show them. I hear their stories so much, and knowing their story, I'm like a detective. I can like figure out, oh, I bet you this is going on. And then they're like, oh my gosh, how did you know that was going on? Well, I'm like, well, I know what that means.
Because you do every day. Hundreds of clients.
Because I put my hands on a bunch of other clients, so I know what X, Y, and Z means in you. And so I was really skeptical if the online program would even be successful, because I felt like people need to see clinicians, and I still do, but there's not enough people doing this work, and there's not enough people, and there's a lot of people saying they're doing this work, and missing some key things. And I'm not saying, I think there's a lot of different approaches, but there's a couple things that are so unique to the way we address it from the neurological standpoint and from the functional integration standpoint. And so I feel like I have been so excited about how the online program, basically, I anticipate what you're going to tell me the next time you come on to see it. Like if I want to see you, I know you're frustrated about this. This is easier. Oh, you didn't even realize that this was better, I bet.
Yeah.
You know, because
you hear the same things. Yeah, you hear the same things.
So I've done it. So I know at this point I really was losing steam, didn't want to do this anymore. You know what? So we change it up at that point. You know, and I feel like we anticipate that, and yes, but people are different. So the Skype is because in the programs, we tell people, okay, if you're having these symptoms, I want you to look at this, this, and this. If you're having these, I want you to look at this. Some people are pretty self-aware. Most people are not. So if you're not self-aware,
we are.
Right. Until I ask you certain things about your body that you haven't ever thought of before in your life. Right. And so a Skype is so nice, because then I can hear your story and I go, oh, don't worry about these parts of the program, because that's not your issue. Just worry about that. And that is so liberating for people, because people are like, oh, that makes sense. I was spending time trying to do everything. And we give you every possible thing we could think of, not knowing what your unique needs are going to be and hoping that we can guide you through it. But what's super nice on a Skype is that I could say, oh, these are the things you really need to do. And it's awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, you and I both have these really vibrant forums, and where these clients of ours can come in and post and just vent and share what they're struggling with. And we are going to go for about 10 more minutes. So if you have more questions, please feel free to post them. We haven't had a ton of questions this time. And
We'll
but I'm
just
sure there'll
talk.
be more later. Yeah, we can
We'll
always
just
talk.
talk ourselves.
But the thing about the forum, and it always cracks me up, especially when I'm kind of lurking in yours, is how somebody will say,
Lurking.
I'm frustrated. This is not connecting. I need to know more about the ribs. And you'll be like, oh, I see you're in week 4. Yeah, we're going to deal with that in week 5. Every time.
Yep.
And so it's like,
yep. You're going to get that. You're
fascinated
going to
by
get that
that.
next week. Next
Yeah.
week. You're right.
And you say
you're right
that
on track because
it's
we're
in
going
their
to talk
program.
about that next week. Yep.
Yeah. It's like but of course people don't always read all the things, And so, and it's the same with my program that I don't really have a program. I just have these workouts. But there's these little pathways and they'll be like, well, I'm bored with this. And I'm like, yeah, the next workout, the next one you're going to do, because we are so familiar with the progression. And the progression for most people kind of follows a really similar track. But again, every now and then you have somebody that they don't need the rib piece next. The next piece they need is shoulder stuff or something else, or their neck. Like, I'm amazed at how many people are affecting their core health by their head position.
Absolutely.
Because wherever the head goes, the body goes. And that's another reason why I'm here at my little squatting station. You've seen me shift positions. So I'm not just hanging out in a squat all the time because you can't take that. But it encourages me to move and stay mobile and avoid that typical this. Because whenever I do this, I lean forward and my belly pooches more.
Mm-hmm.
So like that little piece of the body alignment, and your programs address all of it. Oh yeah.
And feet too.
You started Melissa, who wants to know if her daughter should be wearing that splint, which I would say in concert with some of the exercises, yes. But
the reason that splinting would be helpful for her is for the connection, because the splint is going to simulate what her transverse should be doing when she's doing some stuff. So it's going to give her a ton of feedback. So when you have her wear the splint, what you want her to be aware of is, do you notice the times where you're pushing out into the splint? And when is that? Is it when you're sitting on the bus because the bus seat kind of sucks? It's too deep. Is it when you're, when you're doing this or bending over or doing certain things? And so that they can start feeling how much they're actually collapsing and maybe bulging. So you want to have her put the splint on with the feedback of, oh, when I feel that splint, I want to elongate and just lighten up away from it just a smidge. That'll give her that continuous feedback to the nervous system. That brain is going, oh yeah, that's what the core is supposed to do. Oh yeah, that's what the core is supposed to do. And so it's a disconnect that she has. She hasn't connected to that muscle, and maybe because of some alignment stuff, maybe because of potty posture, maybe because of there's other things, like sometimes kids with asthma or that had a lot of coughing throughout their life have pushed out on their tummy for a long time. There's a lot of little triggers that make people disconnected. So
there's so many things. And that again is where working with a physical therapist, because Fit2B is fitness, which is why I love bringing on these other experts, because I can't do all the things and I want to keep learning. Kelly, I'm curious, and I promised you I would ask this, going back to the woman who's just had a baby and maybe it's her first or her second one. Like, what are the questions? I said what questions I would ask, but what do you think as a physical therapist? What do you think we in the community should be asking each other when babies are born? And then what should be our little nudges and our red flags to say, hey, yeah, you know what? You can get help for that. And what's the best way to say that?
It's hard because in the community, I'm so like, most people know what I do. I try to keep it on the down low so people don't think that I'm, constantly like checking out their posture
because it's awkward. I'm the same way.
Them.
Yeah, I don't like people knowing. I don't like because then they think I'm constantly going to be staring at them and evaluating them, or that maybe I'm going to judge their fitness choices, or that I'm going to think that they're heathens for getting Dutch Brothers.
Yeah, no, we have better things to do with our time. I would like to say though, there are some things that I cannot not do. So I am the person that goes to the baby shower and doesn't bring a baby gift, but brings mommy gifts. I bring them a splint and explain why they might need it, which is sometimes I'll bring a squatty potty, explain why they might need that.
I love that. Put a little pink bow.
Yep. It starts great conversations at this baby shower. I bring tummy cream for them to reconnect to their tummy after. I also usually bring them a little pamphlet on placenta encapsulation because that's one of those things that I didn't know when I was having kids, and when I first heard about it, I thought it was disgusting, and oh my gosh, it's like, why aren't we doing this? And then I give them a gift certificate for a massage. Everybody's thinking right now, you need to come to my baby shower.
I know, right? Come on, how come God couldn't have made us friends 5 years earlier? No, wait. 5 years earlier. That would have been good.
So it's, I give them those things because I know how hard it is on mom, and they're going to get plenty of onesies and baby blankets.
No kidding.
Right. But they need to know that taking care of themselves is important, and that this is going to be a physical challenge. And it also opens the door for them to know that I'm there to support them. So the questions I ask of new moms, I could tell you that when moms are coming in to see me, and I treat everybody like a friend when they walk in. I'm a hugger. So I hug all my clients when they walk in the door. They're like, oh, my physical therapist is really touchy. But I am pretty friendly. And I mean, I respect people's space, but my questions are, how is nursing going? Or how is the baby eating if they're not nursing? Where are they sitting to feed the baby? Because that is consuming all of their time. And if we can just get them in a good sitting, what we call the nursing throne, if we can set them up in a nursing throne, we're going to remove a multitude of potential problems.
Right.
I ask them how they're pooping. Good question.
I'm not going to ask the preacher's wife that.
Yep. Because nobody asks you that, and it's pretty important.
Nice.
I ask them how they're sleeping, how many times the baby's waking up, and giving them some permission and encouragement to sleep as much as possible, because sleep is how they rejuvenate. And do they need a bigger water bottle? Because sometimes
hydration.
A bigger water bottle and one with a straw. We drink more water when we drink out of a straw. So the bigger the water bottle, the less opportunities to have like, oh, I ran out and I didn't go fill it, because sometimes that's just too much. So a big water bottle and trying to drink that all day long. And so hydration. So there's things that help people heal, sleep, hydration, optimal alignment, and nutrition, then I'm like, how are you eating? Are you feeling like you are getting some nutrient dense foods? And my goal for that, and my trick for that is smoothies. Throw as much nutrition you can into a smoothie, smoothie, you're good to go.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
Yeah.
And any of us could pick a couple of those questions and ask.
And all those questions are about the mom,
right? They're not about this.
Say, how's the baby doing? And is the baby latching on? That's a great question. How's nursing? That leads us all to different things. But I'm all about, how is your body feeling? Because, if mom's falling apart, the world's going to fall apart pretty quick after.
Yeah. And if we start by volunteering our help and our time, hey, do you have any doctor's appointments I can watch your kids for? Do you just need help with some grocery shopping? I can pick up a few things. Hey, I'm at Costco. Want me to grab anything? Yeah. And hey, how's your belly doing, by the way? Just those gateway questions to get the mama talking and help her to understand that we're there for them. Now we have another question coming in, and I would love, I'm almost tempted to say, hey, continue without me. Can I do that? Because I really have to go get my kid. But the question just came in. I have 9-month-old twins, both via emergency C-section, as well as 4 older children. natural, fast, hard deliveries. I have been putting off any diastasis rehab due to procrastination, but do you have any advice? She does have a membership to Fit2B, so she's laid that foundation there, just has some basics, but clearly still knows she needs some of that help. So what would be your advice? Like,
well,
is there an ideal time?
The first thing I want to,
and I'm going to let you talk. So I'm actually going to, I'm going to.
I don't know how to end this though, so maybe Chris will help.
Yeah, Chris, maybe Chris can hop on. Chris is my co-founder of Fit2B, everybody. And this is
all right,
just
I'll
one of
answer
those
this
weird
question
days,
because it is a good one. Okay, thanks, Beth.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Okay, so I would say the first thing is to not beat yourself up on that procrastination word, because I'm pretty sure if you have 4 kids and twins that are 9 months old, it's not just procrastination. You have a very full life. So I get that. And the biggest thing that I would say is to recognize that you are important and that you need to take a little time for yourself. And the cool thing is, even though, yes, it's an investment of money and time in the rehab program, we are realistic. We are very much, everything I teach you, I give you strategies on how to fit it into your real life. And even if you pick portions of it and know what you can do and be consistent with small pieces, it'll make a big difference. The first thing I would say that you want to be focusing on is your parenting postures and alignments as much as possible. Look at where you're sitting when you're feeding the babies, and where you're changing them, making sure that you are not doing a lot of bent over collapsing stuff, making sure that if you're wearing the kids at all, that you're always splinting, but really limiting wearing the babies to, I know they're 9 months old, but they're still babies to me, 45 minutes or less. And just looking at the things that you're doing throughout the day, as much as you can be in elongated positions and hinging and not collapsing and bulging, that's going to set you up for success. And then rehab is going to be really important. We are doing a Thanksgiving sale from the Friday till midnight on the Monday after Thanksgiving, and it's a great sale. All of our online programs are on sale. Our Skypes are on sale. We almost never put Skype on sale. We have our Skypes on sale. All our splints are on sale. So that's a great way to kind of take that first step. And if you don't want to start it before the holidays because of crazy, you can buy the voucher and start it right after the holidays, but still get it at sale price. But I think that you want to look for the things in your day that you are feeling the most maybe collapsed and bent over, and pick a handful of those things and try to retrain yourself to do those a little bit differently. And then as you get more strength through rehab, you will get there. Hopefully that answered your question. And I don't know, Chris, if you want me to just close up. I just want to say thank you guys. Thanks Fit2B for having me on. And our website is thetummyteam.com. We have obviously all our information on there, but we also like our program or our website to be a resource. So there is a ton of education, and there is a tab that's called free resources that has a lot of free videos about parenting postures, about a lot of blogs on there, a lot of downloadable little stretches and exercises that you can do. So we like for our information, our website to be a resource as well as a place for you guys to get the help you need through our programs. So thank you so much. I'm going to sign off.